you tired of feeling drained and overwhelmed? In the next 5 minutes, you'll learn the one simple boundary that will change your life forever. Setting boundaries is not just about saying no to others, it's about saying yes to yourself and taking care of your own needs and desires. When you set healthy boundaries, you're able to prioritize your own well-being and live a more balanced and fulfilling life. So, what exactly are boundaries? And why are they so important? Boundaries are like invisible lines that we draw around ourselves to define what we're comfortable with and what we're not. They can be physical, emotional, or mental, and they help us to protect our time, energy, and emotions from being drained by others. Think of boundaries like a fence around your house. It keeps the good things in and the bad things out. Now, you might be thinking, but I'm a people pleaser. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or say no to someone who needs my help. But here's the thing, when you don't set boundaries, you can end up feeling resentful, angry, and burned out. You might start to feel like you're being taken advantage of, or that you're losing yourself in the process of trying to please everyone else. And that's not healthy for you or for the people around you. So, how do you start setting boundaries? It's actually pretty simple. First, you need to identify what your limits are, what you're comfortable with, and what you're not. This can be different for everyone, and it might take some time to figure out what works for you. But start by paying attention to how you feel. When someone asks you for something, or when you're in a certain situation, do you feel anxious, stressed, or overwhelmed, or do you feel calm, relaxed, and happy? Once you have an idea of what your boundaries are, you can start communicating them to others. This can be as simple as saying, "I'm not available to hang out tonight. I need some time to myself." Or, "I'm not comfortable lending you money. I need to prioritize my own finances." Remember, setting boundaries is not about being mean or selfish. It's about being clear and respectful. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but what if someone gets upset or angry when I set a boundary? That's a great question, and it's a common concern. But here's the thing. When you set a boundary, you're not responsible for how the other person feels. You're only responsible for how you feel. So, if someone gets upset or angry when you set a boundary, that's not your problem, that's theirs. It's also important to remember that setting boundaries is not a one-time thing, it's an ongoing process. You might need to set boundaries in different areas of your life, like at work or in your relationships. And you might need to adjust your boundaries as your needs and circumstances change. But the key is to be consistent and to prioritize your own needs and desires. Now, let's talk about some common boundary-setting mistakes that people make. One of the biggest mistakes is not being clear and direct. When you're setting a boundary, it's essential to be straightforward and to avoid being wishy-washy or vague. You don't want to give someone false hope or lead them on, only to disappoint them later. Another mistake is not being consistent. When you set a boundary, you need to stick to it and not make exceptions or bend the rules. If you're not consistent, you can confuse others and undermine your own authority, and that can make it harder to set boundaries in the future. Finally, some people make the mistake of setting boundaries out of anger or resentment. When you set a boundary, it should be from a place of self-love and self-care, not from a place of anger or frustration. Remember, setting boundaries is about taking care of yourself and prioritizing your own needs and desires. So, what are some examples of healthy boundaries that you can set in your life? Well, one example is setting a boundary around your work-life balance. You might decide that you're not going to check your work emails or take work calls outside of work hours. Or you might decide that you're going to take a certain number of days off per year to relax and recharge. Another example is setting a boundary around your relationships. You might decide that you're not going to tolerate abusive or toxic behavior from someone, or you might decide that you're going to prioritize your relationships with people who support and uplift you. You can also set boundaries around your time and energy. You might decide that you're not going to attend every social event or gathering that you're invited to. Or you might decide that you're going to prioritize your own hobbies and interests over someone else's expectations. Now, I want to talk about the benefits of setting healthy boundaries. When you set boundaries, you can reduce stress and anxiety and feel more in control of your life. You can also improve your relationships by being more clear and direct about what you want and need. And you can increase your self-esteem and confidence by prioritizing your own needs and desires. Setting boundaries can also help you to avoid burnout and exhaustion. When you're not taking care of yourself and your needs, you can end up feeling drained and depleted. But when you set boundaries, you can conserve your energy and focus on what's truly important to you. Finally, setting boundaries can help you to live a more authentic and meaningful life. When you're not trying to please everyone else, you can focus on what truly matters to you. You can pursue your passions and interests and live a life that's true to who you are. So, what's the one simple boundary that will change your life forever? It's learning to say no without feeling guilty or apologetic. When you can say no to something that doesn't align with your values or goals, you can open yourself up to new opportunities and experiences. You can prioritize your own needs and desires and live a more intentional and fulfilling life. In our next video, we'll be talking about how to prioritize your own needs and desires and live a more intentional life. We'll be sharing some practical tips and strategies for saying no without feeling guilty or apologetic. And we'll be exploring some common obstacles that can get in the way of setting healthy boundaries. So be sure to check it out, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content on personal growth and development. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.